What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Danny the Bull here with a special live stream covering the community update that just ended about 45 minutes ago. I wanted to get some of your reactions to it, give you some of my thoughts on it. And upon first glance and hearing from people, it seems like a lot of people were let down by what they heard in the community update. We got SoCal Omi Homie in here. He says that update could have been done better. Talk about tone deaf. Glad they think it's all a big effing joke. What's up, SoCal? Dive Jedi in the house says he's kind of depressed. Super duper Hank also unhappy with it. Dan O asked, where is Rhys? So I'm going to give you my thoughts on it, go through it a little bit, summarize some of the points that they made, and feel free hit up the chat. I'll address some of the points that you're making. We'll have a little conversation here about this community update. My overall thought on the update was that this could and should have been like a Twitter thread, right? It could have been just a quick update that was given through Twitter, because the main points that they made were kind of, not groundbreaking. There weren't any like nothing new really was said. They talked about MCP, and which is a hot topic of conversation. Obviously, a lot of people are waiting for those MCP points. People have accumulated so many points and they want to spend them and take advantage of all those points they've accumulated. And yet here we are 8 months into 2023 and they still can't, right? Mr. Rolex, shout out to him, hit 100, hit the top spot on MCP leaderboard or whatever, and he still can't use his MCP points. So they did update us on that, and they basically said that the wait list system is holding up MCP, and they need to optimize that and fix that before they can fix or move further on MCP. And to me, that's good to hear. That's good to hear, but that could have been said in a tweet, right? I think it was yesterday, Nestor, or it might have been today, Nestor tweeted out something along the lines of about the rebound, about how they're working on fixing the rebound, right? And that message sufficed for that problem. I feel like the problems that they addressed and the topics that they addressed in this community update would have been satisfactorily handled in just a tweet. And by, putting out a community update, you raise expectations and, people rush there, and you have like people in the palm of your hand. They're waiting to hear what the update is. And when it ends up being underwhelming, then, you lost, you kind of like disappointed them, and you get the feelings expressed that we have now. So let me know in the chat, what were your thoughts on this update? I'll continue to go through some of those talking points. They started with talking about San Diego Comic-Con, talking about the fact that more people are open to digital collecting. There's greater awareness in the space. And to me, this is overall a bullish thing. And it's something that we've heard coming out of San Diego Comic-Con. We've seen people tweeting about this. We saw Von Doom, I think that's his name. He's a big Web3, 200,000 followers on Twitter, big. He's got a good Web3 following. He started covering VV. So you see that, and of course we saw other people covering that Stan Lee drop. So out of Comic-Con, there does seem to be a little shift in people paying a little more attention to the space. So they talked about that first, but again, that wasn't like anything groundbreaking, right? We've been talking about that. Tito's in the house and looking fresh. He's talking about this little fresh cut that I got today. Hit up the barber shop. Little overdue. But where was I? Then they talked about the VVerse. In my opinion, they should have announced the VVerse beta launch in this update, and that would have been something substantial, right? that's something that people would have buzzed about afterwards, but they blew that buzz last week, right? In that, the VV Magic sit down. So that was kind of the big talking point, or the big thing that came out in the last week, was VVerse is going into beta, which is a bullish thing. It's a good thing. We've been waiting on the VVerse. They said it was coming in April, a little bit delayed. That's not that bad, starting in August when they said April. In my opinion, they should have held off on that for this update if they were, dead set on doing an update. And then this would have had more teeth to it, right? But the fact that we already knew that, then the VVerse, them talking about it, ended up being basically nothing, right? They talked about how the VVerse is much more realistic, and that lines up with what Ryan said when he was on my stream last week. He talked about the clarity of the assets there. Again, if they had announced the VVerse the first time in this community update, I think the sentiment would have been a little bit different coming out of it, right? But being that we heard most of this stuff and the things that they discussed could have been done in tweets, it leaves people a little underwhelmed. We got Alex in the house. I'm going to talk about Omi in a minute. We have to talk about Omi. We got Luke in the house. Justin, nothing on Omi. This is correct. And yeah, Justin, April, August, same thing, right? They both begin with A's. Mitch talked about the cadence, the improved cadence, the 2-week cycles, which again is a good thing. We've noticed that incremental change. And here's the thing. There has been a better development cycle this year. They have delivered on things. Their problem is one that they really can't fix right now, because it goes back to their communication from 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they said we would have, VVerse, MCP, interoperability, and all these things. And if I'm not mistaken, they said most of those things would be here by 2021, right? MCP specifically, VVerse. So by the end of 2021, we would have these things. If back then they had said our 5-year plan is to create our own metaverse, which we will start working on in 2023, the sentiment around all of this would be different, all right? Because it's a matter of the expectations that they set and that they under-delivered on. Now they're starting to deliver, but it feels like too little, too late. Not to say that they can't make up for things, because I think that they can, and I think that they will, but it's going to continue to take time, right? I fully believe that they're going to get the VVerse out, but it's going to take time. MCP is going to come, but I don't think it's coming by the end of the year in full at the pace in which they move, right? So it's August. They have to fix waitlist. And that, might take till, I don't know, September, maybe even October. And then they have to get going on the MCP side of things. And with the glacial pace that they seem to move, I don't think that that's coming by the end of the year. That's my expectation, at least. And so as more time progresses, that anxiety and that, the level of frustration kind of builds. And when we see other projects, like let's say McFarlane, we saw that HRO came out with their leaderboard. We saw that McFarlane came out and they have their XP system deployed right off the bat. If McFarlane is able to deliver on what they're thinking, right, in terms of getting more IP, getting more drops, branching out beyond Batman and that whole universe, and they continue to deliver a reward system, then you're going to see the frustration build on the VV side. All right. So for me, this whole problem goes back to a couple years ago, right? It's not about, right now they're delivering little by little, but the problem was what they said 2 years ago. Alan, it was fine. Could have been summarized in an article. Invitations gone out already for VVerse, and with McFarlane doing so well with Batman and Todd, I think we expected more due to the timing. Yeah. All right. This should have been, Twitter threads. Even if they do, I think when I spoke to Ryan last week, I told him one of the things that I told him that I would like to see is them giving just technical feedback on what's going on behind the scenes. So, for instance, MCP is still not here. Here's the reason why. We need to fix the waitlist system. MCP is dependent on it. This is where we're at in the waitlist system. This is what we're fixing and what we're working on. And then people would have a better understanding that by working on the waitlist, they are actually, that leads to MCP. Again, that can be solved and communicated through a tweet. And they still struggle a little bit on the communication side, right? And they've gotten a little better in terms of that because they've stopped with the over promising, right? They've kind of gone like to the opposite end of the spectrum. And I feel like they need to find a balance, right? Whereas they were over promising 2 years ago, now they kind of go radio silent for a while. And then, there's not like they're not really sure on how they want to release information. You can see that by the shift in style, right? So they went from AMAs to the community update videos driven by Alex with Dan and Dave that they did on a near monthly basis. But now they said that they're shifting away from that into something new. And I get that because at this point, we know what the big things are, right? The big deliverables are. And unless there's something substantial to update people on, it does not make sense to do monthly updates, right? They have to find a balance on how to communicate what's happening so that people know exactly what's happening behind the scenes, all right, and figure that out. Alan says, also feels to be a slight buzz in the community around Omi and nothing new, which was a shame. And this is also, here's the thing. They had a captive audience. I don't know how many people were there, but I'm sure well over 1,000 people will see that. I know that Randy was streaming it. He had over 100 people in his watch party. Hodler was streaming it. He had over 70 people in his. And then you had people in the space itself. They had a captive audience and had an opportunity to address many of the people who were there specifically on the Omi side of things, right? Or for it to hear about what's going on Omi. And they said nothing about Omi. And that is a big wasted opportunity from my perspective, because so basically what they said surrounding Omi was there's a team dedicated to Omi and they're working on it, but that's not, Mitch said this, that's not part of my team, right? There's a separate team. Rest assured, they're working on Omi. When you have an opportunity to address your community, and there are a large number of them there, many of them there to hear specifically about Omi, they need to take advantage of that. And even if it's getting a bulleted list of what's happening on the technical side of Omi, then they should do that, because to go radio silence on Omi is not a good look. And I have faith that they're working on Omi. All right. I don't doubt, I believe that there is a team working on the different features that we're waiting on, right? Specifically being able to buy Omi from the wallet, Omi to NFT, and staking, right? Which is part of that first revitalized tier. So if they just got a bulleted list of what's happening, then it would have gone a long way to assuaging people, because now people are just thinking, here we go again. They're still not talking about Omi, and that's been a common narrative that that's been discussed and that people feel in the community. Is they feel that they care more about the VV side than the Omi side. And from a communication standpoint, from the Ecomi team, right? This is a corporation, Ecomi. They need to effectively communicate that we do care about this token and we're going to deliver on it. And even if it's reiterating that we have however many people they have working on the team, we have 4, 5, 6 people working on specifically on the Omi team. Here is the lead person on the project. His name is whatever his name is. And then we get to know him like Mitch. And then that puts a face to it. Because clearly it's not Rhys. Rhys is just the manager, right? He does like the communication stuff on the token side, help develop the token system. He's not on the blockchain side. I feel like they need to do something like that on the Omi side of things, because the perspective and the optics of it are, we don't care. And it goes so far as, if David wears an Omi hat, it's like a big deal. It's like, oh, he's acknowledging Omi, right? He shouldn't have to just, wear a hat to communicate that they care. That should be reiterated. And I think that they should talk to us again on the, what's going on the technical side. SoCal says 61 days to Q4. Yeah. It's funny how time moves fast, right? It seems like we were just starting 2023 and we had all these expectations again. And while, again, the cadence is better and the cyclical nature of rollouts is much improved, and there are things that you can celebrate and see signs of improvement, the big deliverables are still not here, right? And I think until we get those big deliverables, you're not going to, this frustration is going to linger. Even if it's like an undercurrent, people are temporarily satisfied with news of VVerse beta, of a crafting system, of localization, right? So there's a temporary, buzz in the community, but the underlying frustration will be there until the big deliverables are met. I believe they'll be met. I don't know when they will be met. And again, the further out that you go, the more the frustration will build. We got Kyle Wilson in the house. Missed the update, just tuning in. Anything big or just as soon? Yeah, just to reiterate, Kyle, nothing big. Basically, I would say the main idea of it, if I had to summarize it, was waitlist is holding up MCP. They're working on waitlist, and then they'll be able to prioritize MCP more. And the rest of it was just kind of stuff that we've heard before. So, yeah. Tommy says, I think it is realistic that they miss this bull run. 2028 seems more realistic. So I made a video about this, them possibly missing the bull run. It's possible that, listen, not every coin, the winners of the new cycle are not going to be the winners of the last cycle, right? Historically, that's how it goes, right? They're not always the winner of the last cycle. And oftentimes it's the new narrative, the new coins, the hot, new thing that gains traction. If they are unable to deliver anything substantial for Omi by the halving, the frustration level is going to be big, right? The anxiety and the fear and everything is going to just build, and it'll be an issue for sure. The good news is they have 9 months until the halving. The bad news is, look back 9 months, right? 2023 was almost 9 months ago, and look what's been accomplished. Small things, right? Little hits, base hits, no home runs. I think if they get a couple base hits on the Omi side and then get a couple exchanges on the Omi side, gets a little utility, they'll be fine for the next bull run. But it's a matter of getting those things done. Let me know in the chat what you guys think. Are we going to miss the next bull run, or will they be there to take advantage of it? Planet Vampire, I feel like their communication could shift more to large influencers and media while trying to deliver to the community. So Ryan had said that they're going to shift to like niches of collecting spaces, right? Like link up with influencers in different spaces to try to build out VV. But I think that they need to get their communication right. They can't rely on others to communicate for them. And they've been, they went from the AMAs to the monthly updates to now they're in limbo, right? And they need to hit a cadence and a system and figure out, how are we going to get this done on the communication side, right? And also think about this. They had to have expected that people were going to want to know about Omi. They had to have expected that people are going to walk away and say they just said nothing about Omi. That's a little tone deaf still, right? That that your core audience is there to hear something. And even if you give them, like I said, a face to the blockchain team and the technical things that they're working on, I think people would have been a little more satisfied, but instead they left them walking away with more soon. VV has become very corporate. They need to bring it back to the basics. Yeah, I do think that they have. I think it's inevitable as a company grows. So does, their responsibility. So does the different things they're working on. The amount of people that they're managing also grows. And so they become a corporation, and you can't get around that. But they need to get back to the basics of the communication. I agree with that. Feels like feels patronizing at this point. I wouldn't go as far to say Omi equals Grumpy Cat. I think Omi will be fine. For me, the bottom line on Omi is still, it's still okay. Like, the narrative is still there. And like, they still have the licenses. Let's not forget, it's easy to get frustrated and diminish everything that they've accomplished, right? But we can't forget everything that they've accomplished, which is that they've built an app that is very easy to use, very accessible, built for mainstream consumption. They have thousands of daily active users who are, spending gems. And that number has to grow, obviously, in order to be sustainable. But they do have a hardcore, small community of fans and people. The product resonates with people. So if they're able to deliver on those big ticket items, then they're going to be fine. Again, the problem goes back to in my opinion, the problem and why it can't be fixed easily, because the problem goes back to 2 years ago when they said all these things would happen in a timely fashion. And then they didn't happen. And people had to raise expectations. If they had said this is the 5-year plan and said that MCP was part of year 2 and 3, then people wouldn't be so upset about it. But because they said it's coming by the end of 2021, people are retroactively pissed, right? It doesn't matter. They're accomplishing things. They've got the crafting thing, in place. They've got the waitlist system, localization, right? They are, accomplishing small things, but they promised too much, and now they're stuck. They're kind of like behind an 8 ball. It's like they're like Indiana Jones, and that big boulder is kind of chasing them. That's kind of how it feels, right? And they have to produce, and this is what it is. SoCal says, yeah, there were over 1,100 people in that space, and they whiffed. It's important to maximize. So whenever you have an opportunity to deliver your message, you need to optimize that message. You need to curate your message so that it hits people, effectively, and communicates to them effectively, and has them leaving, optimistic or a little more knowledgeable. But unfortunately, what they said in the update, we had already basically heard, right? There was nothing groundbreaking or new, which is, that's fine. Just don't have the update, right? Just don't have the update. And just tell the community, it doesn't make sense for us to do these big updates if we don't have something big to announce. We all know what's coming. And every couple of weeks, tweet out the technical things that are being accomplished. All right. I felt like Nestor's tweet, just acknowledging the rebound issue and saying what they're doing, I thought that was effective. I think Mitch saying, and I love Mitch, all right? He's in a tough position. I really like Mitch. Just Mitch saying the waitlist is holding up progress on MCP. That's helpful. Do that in a tweet, right? Unless they were going to unveil the VVerse in that, which I think that's what they should have done in the update, like I said. Dive Jedi, the whole point of Spaces is that you can interact with your audience. Another thing here, right, is that you notice that they did not interact with the audience. That was, 100% a conscious decision. They did not take questions at the end. They didn't want to open the floor for people to ask questions at the end. And the reason is because they don't want to be forced to, I guess, answer questions or have someone come up on stage who's frustrated and express that frustration. They wanted to control the message, right? That's why they didn't let anyone on stage and didn't take any questions. I don't blame David. You too ashamed to show up. I don't think that David needs to show up to everything. And I do think that they're working. I do think that they've accomplished some things, but again, it's like their mistake from 2 years ago, it just compounds, right? It's not like, I feel like they've been a little better on the promising, right? Promising and like saying that they're going to get something out. And VVerse had a target of April. All right, it came out in August. That was their last target date was April. So they've been a little better, but their issue goes back to 2 years ago, and it's an issue that they now can't fix. That it's like Pandora's box. They let that out of the box, and now they can't just put it back in. You can't just take back all those promises and shove them back in and reappropriate them or I guess just say that. I lost my train of thought. David was there. Oh, was David there? I did not see him there. Rhys gone. Rhys is not gone, but Rhys is radio silent also, right? And we know why Rhys is kind of quiet. 2 reasons. One is that there's nothing really on the Omi side, but also because of everything online with Twitter becoming the hostile environment for him specifically, with people, the allegations of him not only selling, but allegations that he dumped. And anytime that he comes into a space, I feel like he'll just get hounded right now. To me, I think that he should just come out and tell his side of the story and then move on, right? But again, I don't know what their internal talks are like. And obviously it's more complicated sometimes. But it gives the appearance that like you can't go radio silent on things, right? It's not a good look. I'll give you an example of why it's not a good look. The Omi team, Omi, just deleted their videos on the Omi YouTube channel. The reasoning I think that they deleted their videos is because the information is outdated, because they've changed their tokenomic system a couple of times, right? Originally, we all know what the original one was backed by VV, the vault system, the reserve system. Then it went to the OUP. And now it's even shifting away from that into something that's more synergistic with MCP. So they've changed their whole utility program or their future utility program. And so it poses a problem if new people go visit YouTube and watch videos and they get outdated information. So to me, it makes sense that they would delete those videos. However, when you don't explain why you do something, you get speculation. And the speculation that people will, jump on is, oh, they're trying to hide something, right? They're hiding something around the Omi token. They're covering things up. Why did they delete all their videos, right? I'm sure that they deleted, or I think that they deleted their videos because the information is outdated. And why have new people visit it and get, outdated information? It doesn't make sense to keep outdated information up there. But when you go radio silent on something, then you're allowing others to control the narrative. And this is something that we've seen with them in the past. And so that communication issue, is an issue. And I don't know that they need someone to just firm up the communication side of things, because it would help so much, right? For to have someone who can foresee all of these things. They can foresee the fact we're going into a Twitter space. There are going to be 1,200 people there, more people who watch it recorded afterwards. You're going to get thousands of eyes on this. Many of them are there for the Omi token. We need to at least give an update. Otherwise, it reinforces the narrative that we don't care, right? Which I don't think is true. I think that they do care, just taking more time to flesh out, and it's more complicated than they expected. And, you know, I mean, Hello Care had him on a bunch of times earlier in the year, and he talked about their tech debt and having to undo a lot of the things that they did in the past, and that just compounds the work that they do. I think that's what's going on, and that's what causes the delays. By not addressing Omi at all, when you have this audience captive, it allows others to control the narrative, and then what they are going to say is, see, they don't care about the Omi token. And again, I don't think that's the case. So, I think, again, they need to firm up that communication a little bit. Super Duper Hank says he thinks Rhys is gone. I don't think Rhys is gone. The fact that Hank thinks that he's gone, right? That speaks to what I was just saying, though, right? The fact that Hank is questioning, is Rhys still a part of this team? You can't go radio silent. Control the narrative. Take it back. If the narrative is you sold all your tokens, take back the narrative. Yeah, I sold some tokens. I was taking profits. Maybe I shouldn't have sent a buy signal, right? In that Telegram message that he sent, where he said he was buying Omi. And he can say, I made a mistake, but I was taking profits. In the future, I will space them out, but I will continue to take profits, because that's what you do in crypto. Because crypto crashes 95% and it's very volatile. And if you have your whole net worth tied up into a coin and you're not a millionaire to begin with, you need to take profits. But control the narrative, right? And sometimes people take silence as confirmation, and, it's an issue. So I think that my takeaway from this was, it was a missed opportunity, and, poor communication. And it kind of overshadows a lot of the good that they do and that they've done. Okay. Because I've said it. We're all here for a reason. We see the vision, right? The vision is great. They are selling. This is a project that is adding personnel and adding staff members in a bear market while other projects are dying. What is happening at Recur? What's happening at Recur? What's happening at a bunch of other projects during this bear market? They've shriveled up and died. The VV team has grown by a lot. That's a good thing. They've continued to sell product. They have these drops that, they 200x, 500 Stan Lee, $15 to $700, whatever the secret rare is. How many opportunities are there? That's a layup, right? If you hit the wait list, that's a layup. That is a guaranteed lotto ticket. How many other places have that? They have a very unique business and, company. And we often forget that, and it's overshadowed by their poor communication. And, that to me is a shame. But long term, them delivering on those big ticket items is what will prove out their success or lack thereof. So DGen Rich, Omi is trash. Face it, VV doesn't need Omi. They need IMX. So that's correct, that they don't need Omi at this moment. In order for Omi to, do well, they need to make it necessary. It needs to be kind of like the in-app currency. It needs to be the currency of this ecosystem. You almost have to force people to use it. And they have great opportunity to do that. The VVerse, purchasing accessories, Omi to NFT, incentivizing people to use Omi to save money on seller fees, which can be great when you get into big, you're paying a lot of money when you're selling those big ticket items. If you're transacting in Omi and you're able to put more money in your pocket, it's a big incentive to hold Omi. Offering great staking rewards. All right. So right now, they don't need, Omi doesn't have a use case. The opportunity is there for them to deliver on it still, and they need to make it necessary. They need to make it necessary. Stan says Kyle even gave up. Kyle's still around in the background. Kyle's, shout out Kyle Wilson. A lot of people, Kyle Wilson caught a lot of shit for his views. It's okay to change your mind on something. It's okay to value like true Web3 principles and then get upset that, what VV doesn't, adhere to those true Web3 principles. They're more geared towards a mainstream audience. So he took a lot of shit for his association with Paul Barron. But Kyle Wilson is one of the smartest people in the space. He's been a great contributor to the community, and he's still here. What's up, Biscuits? Dive Jedi says, very underwhelming. SoCal, Omi didn't win last cycle either. It was all false promises, still mostly. So if you look back at the last cycle, it feels like Omi didn't win because we didn't win in Omi. But if you look back at the last cycle, Omi was the greatest winner percentage-wise. It went up from however many zeros it had, an infinite amount of zeros, to $0.015, which was a crazy return for those early investors. And then it dumped all the way down to 0.002 or whatever. Went back up to 0.008, didn't quite catch that all-time high. So it feels like it didn't win last cycle, but if you were in at all those zeros, you won. You don't win much more than that in crypto. It had that, and then Gala had the two biggest percentage-wise returns. Now, Omi in this next cycle, again, they need to deliver on the utility aspect of things, and they need exchanges. And if they do that, they'll be fine. And I'm not worried about it because it's out of my control. And, the vision is still there. Like I said, Omi is connected, if not directly tied to yet, a company that is doing real world revenue. You don't get that too often in crypto. It's an easy narrative to understand. So I always try to bottom line things, right? There's plenty to be upset about. And I've communicated, my frustrations about their communication. But when I bottom line things, VV still has a product that resonates. They still have all this IP. They still have this community that loves to talk about all this IP. It's a one-stop shopping. VV Viral compared it to going to a mall, right? He said going into the VV app is like going to the mall. There's one store you can buy stamps. Another store you can buy, Lambo. Another store there's Marvel, Star Wars, Mickey Mouse, all these things, RoboCop and retro stuff. That's what VV offers in a way that cuts out the Web3 aspect of things, which pisses off the Web3 people, right? So it doesn't really hit that core group. But they are successful in dealing with normal everyday people. And so when I bottom line things, I still think that, there's a reason why we're here talking about them. SoCal says, we are not alone. Extraterrestrials exist, right? So, I don't know what these guys are talking about. Why didn't they select this channel or Kyle's platform for VVerse beta testing? I will say that I do think they could have done a better job with their content creators. Not me. I'm not speaking personally. I'm talking about people like VV Vault. people and I know that he's had beef with them, that's, whatever aside. But even people like Kyle Wilson, people here early, and I'm not talking about paying them, because I think that when you pay people to talk about your product, they're not going to give real takes on it. I mean, just supporting them by demoing things like the VVerse in there, or giving them giveaways to give out to people. One great thing they can do in the future with the bronze tickets is, Kyle, here, 100 bronze tickets, give them away to the community. And now you're working to foster that community, and you're helping support the people who are communicating. A lot of this stuff is grown word of mouth. And a lot of the updates, that the first place people go to when they look for information is YouTube. So if you need to buy Omi, you look for 8 easy steps to buy the Omi token. Go to Foster Hilt's channel, right? VVvault has done a tremendous job in communicating to people how to hit the drops. And so I do think, but the thing is that I think they kind of took it for granted that they had all these people who were just giving them free advertising. And you kind of feel it more in a bear market, right? You feel it once people start leaving, then you see the need for all that communication from the content creators. So I do think that it would help them if they support their creators. What else we got? Kyle Wilson said he never got access to anything, but he did appreciate the light. The light was a nice gesture. Still waiting for my light. Where's my light? More OGs are bailing due to their miscommunications. Dan Crothers sits on the throne and lies about spaghetti code. So yeah, and as for as many people that are leaving, they're still real. I think they're still here. Even people like, Biscuits is still here. Not here in terms of she's voting with her wallet. I think SoCal is correct that a lot of people are now voting with their wallet, right? They're saying, you know what? I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to wait and see. I'm sticking around. I'm watching, and I'm going to wait and see. And that's okay. And we'll wait and see. Biscuits, I'm still a bit confused on how they calculate the MCP points. I'm curious to the accuracy of the points. So yeah, they acknowledged that the points are not quite accurate. And if your points, so for everyone who is collecting on VV, I encourage you to try to figure out how many points you should be accumulating on a daily basis and calculate it and see if it's matching up. And if you think that there's a big discrepancy or any discrepancy, fill out a form, fill out a support ticket, and they said that they're handling it on a case-by-case basis. The good news is that they're seemingly looking to handle it. The bad news is there might be like 1,000 cases, right? And if they're doing it case-by-case, it's a problem. Again, the problem goes back to having to do this retroactively for millions of points. They've had so many drops. There have been people collecting for like 1,000 days, so that they need to now get this right, for everyone, and retroactively calculate millions of points. And I don't know how this is done. I don't get the tech side of things. To me, it sounds complicated. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But, we'll see. Oh, stop it, Josh. Super duper Hank. Thank you. I try to be professional. Haven't interacted with the audience in a while, I think. I mean, come on, when people are avoiding, it's because they are hiding something. Yeah, I mean, so again, I think that goes back to perception, and you can't go silent because that gives the perception that you're avoiding something or hiding something. So I thought, okay, Dan was here and he spoke, and maybe that's good for some people. The one issue, I'll keep going back to it, for this particular community update was, in my opinion, I think they should have made the VVverse announcement here. wait 3 days, then that's an announcement that has teeth to it. And then you'd get some buzz coming out of this community update. Instead, we got a bit of a hangover from the VVerse, right? People were excited. Now they're like, all right, what's next? This is next. This community update is next. But there was nothing quite buzzworthy about it. And so it's good to hear from Dan and see him. David's going to be on, and you can have an interview on a channel coming up. So that'll be good. So they've not disappeared, right? They're still here. They're still building. We see them building little by little. All right. And I'm going to keep saying it. Their mistake happened 2 years ago when they promised all these things. Instead of saying this is a 5-year plan and outlining it a little loosely, instead of saying this is what's going to happen in the next 2 months. And now, here we are. We're never some people are not going to be satisfied until everything is done. And that's going to take a lot of time. And so you're going to get these frustrations, right? So my perspective is I don't really get frustrated. I mean, I get frustrated at the communication stuff just because I think they're missed opportunities. I've learned not to get frustrated on the timelines because, I'm patient. And, however, I will say this, that I'm not collecting for MCP points. So had they had that out and rolled out, I think that they'd incentivize more people like me, who kind of like on the fringe now on the app, because I'm more on the Omi side of things. But, if I was guaranteed us, or near, improved chances of hitting a big drop by buying some cheap comics or whatever, I'd be out there doing that. But I don't see the MCP coming anytime soon. And so I'm going to put my money to use somewhere else. Roger, I believe they work hard in the background and are exhausted. I feel we complain that they don't communicate as much, so they didn't update. Yeah, I do think that they're working. And I do think that they've gotten things done. And I think that they're, the frustrations that they deal with, like I said, aren't going to get fixed anytime soon because they need to hit those big deliverables. In terms of being exhausted, that's what running a big corporation is. It's exhausting. It's what this job is, right? Anyone running a big company will say that you're working all day long. And that's what you sign up for when you have this vision of creating an app that everyone uses and scaling it out to different parts of the world. And now you're going to Asia and you're going to these con events and you're doing all these things. It's part of the job, right? And also part of the job is balancing the communication side of it. And so that's something that I don't know if that's a position they need to hire someone. When I was talking to Ryan the other day, I said to him, is there someone on the team whose job it is to be like the Web3 watchdog? Like, don't add another addition to the VV logo because the community will get pissed off. Don't, pull back the Dumbo NFT because the Web3 people will be pissed off. People will be pissed off. I feel like they need these people. It needs to be someone's job, right? To communicate, to and I don't know what systems they have in place. Like I said, it doesn't negate everything that they've accomplished, right? And they have plenty of successes. It's a shame that it's what they've done well is overshadowed, right, by the communication sometimes. You're complaining about things VV could have just tweeted, but people were asking for the community update. Yeah, but they were asking for the community update because they weren't tweeting. They weren't getting information. And so just because people are saying we want a community update doesn't mean that you give them one, because then it's counterproductive. At the end of the day, they need to develop their own communication style and create one that's effective and that does the job and is efficient. And so, In my opinion, Omi was initially a marketing scheme to lure crypto fanatics to the project. It's obvious that they are attempting to retroactively rewrite that history to appease us. There's something to be said of raising money with a token sale, right? Part of their plan was to raise money. Also, important to understand that the regulatory landscape has shifted, and the concerns. So here's the thing with Omi. Once the when they started this team, they had very few people on it. All right. And I guess the few people on it could handle the requirements for Omi at that time, right? Which Kate dealt with their tokenomic system, which was just the reserve wallet and, getting drained and then buybacks, put them in the reserve. Kind of a simple system. The regulatory landscape shifted and they had to change it. And they didn't have the right tech people on board. And then they had to go out and find these people, and they had to create, and this is just me, right? Like speculating on what happened behind the scenes. Once things changed and they had to change course, they were not prepared to change course. They just hired a blockchain team in the last year. Why didn't they hire a blockchain team years ago to do what they needed to do back then? They probably figured they don't need those people right now. But now here we are, a couple of years later, the environment has changed, the utility program has changed, and now they need a blockchain team, and they're just playing catch up, and they're constantly playing catch up, and this is what it is. Omi is dead. Why do they even have a Twitter? I think, again, Omi seems dead. I don't think it's dead. Red circle chart update. Another, again, it goes, thank you, SoCal. Goes back to communication. They have these false starts, and they had the red circle updates, and everyone was like, great, we've been waiting for this. Something where we can go, someplace we can go to track progress. And then they abandoned it. And, you can't do these things. And, I wish that they would, create an efficient system to communicate and then just stick to it. And maybe if that's, weekly or monthly tweets or whatever that handle the technicals like Mitch does sometimes, or like Nestor just did, then do that. If you're going to do the circle thing, then do the circle thing. Right? So, bit of an issue there. Urgent, everyone watching or listening, hit the like button. Yes, you guys, this is my first solo live stream. So thank you all for being here. If you have questions, comments, definitely hit up the chat. I enjoy these solo live streams, even though this is my first one. I enjoy it because it allows me to interact with you guys more and speak to a lot of the points that you're making and thinking about. When I'm interviewing people or talking to people, my focus is mainly on them. And so I love the opportunity to get your feedback and hear what you guys are saying. Going back to that red circle chart update that SoCal just mentioned, Cardano is often referenced as a project that took a long time to deliver, right? I think one of the things that Charles Hoskinson did well, and that's he's the founder of Cardano. He's a great speaker and great communicator. Every month or so, he will do a live stream where he will speak for like 2 hours. Do it on Twitter, do it on YouTube. He'll speak for hours, and he will talk to you about the specifics of what they are doing. And so if, one of their upgrades isn't ready and it was supposed to be done, and they missed all their timelines. Okay. And a lot of people got frustrated, and a lot of people called them a ghost chain. But I think their core community, which was strong, right? Cardano is such a strong community. Their core community is devoted to that project because they buy into the vision and because of Charles's ability to effectively communicate the technical aspects of what's happening behind the scenes and why there are holdups. And I think that that helps. And, you know, it's something that I think that VV team can learn from and do a little bit better on. Just my opinion. Yeah, FA solo. First solo live stream. And if you guys like solo live streams, I plan on doing more of them. So let me know. Let me go back to the comments. I lost where I was. Here we go. IP know nothing about Omi, so I don't know how they can make Omi succeed. I mean, they have a great opportunity to make Omi succeed. Great opportunity. They have a product that resonates with people. If they successfully flesh out the ecosystem and they make the Omi token necessary within the ecosystem, you have the recipe for success. I think it's something like 80% of people who collect on VV don't hold Omi. Imagine with how much Omi would move if they were able to bridge that gap. Think about it. And so it's a matter of, one, getting the tech done, which is their biggest problem, and that's really what it's a matter of, getting that tech side handled. So the opportunity is there. Omi lost all its value, and VV never sold. Sorry to its holders. And again, like Omi, everything lost it. We're in a bear market. Everything went down 95%, 90%. Solana went down to $8. Cardano went down to 23 cents or whatever it is. Not the fact that it's lost value. That means absolutely nothing. The problem is that fundamentally, they haven't done what they need to do in order to give it value next cycle or in the future. If they accomplish that, everything's fine. So I have no problem on my end holding Omi. I don't worry about it. I just leave it in my bag and I give it time, right? Because I know that, or I believe that if they accomplish what they set out to, and it might take, sometimes the vision is correct and your thoughts, like you're right about something, but you're wrong about the timeline. And that's what I think will happen here, is that we're right about the project, wrong about the timeline. Yep, Super Duper Hank, they deleted those videos, but like I said, I think that's why it was. SoCal disagrees. He says deleted to cover up the lies, prevent detrimental reliance claims. Stan says the best thing they can do is give whale Omi holders partner statues. I think that would be a bad decision. VV is still a great app, but turned me into a flipper, not a collector. Yeah, and I totally agree with that. They need to, their collectors at heart is the slogan. They need to reward collectors. They need to make it a collector's app, because if you don't have incentive to collect, and let's face it, the fact that there's a secondary market built in to the app makes the value after you buy it like an intrinsic part of the buying experience, right? Anytime you buy something, anytime there is a drop, there is a price prediction before the drop. You cannot separate the prospect of people making money from this app, right? As much as like it's a collector's app, collectors at heart, that money, that the investment aspect of it, you can't untie it. It's there. It's built in inherently from the secondary market. And they optimize the collecting aspect of it by getting MCP rolled out, rewarding collectors, incentivizing them to hold complete sets, all these things, create a leaderboard that gamifies the whole thing, right? If you watch my channel, you know that I like what they're doing over at McFarlane. Quick plug, I'll have Trevor on tomorrow live stream to talk to him. He's the product manager. I like what they're doing at McFarlane. After buying just a few things, I was very much incentivized to hold and become more of a collector there because of the gamification aspect, because they're the leaderboard and the accumulation of XP points. And I can see where I'm at in comparison to someone else. And then I am rewarded for holding. So I got to mint, 3 of the Batman, the Todd McFarlane Batman drops last week, right? I got allow listed to mint 3 because I was a top 100 holder. That incentivizes me to be a top 100 holder because it's kind of like staking rewards, right? It's kind of like receiving, I think Sleeping Comics said it's like receiving a dividend. You're getting paid to hold in essence because you're almost guaranteed these big drops. And that's what the Master Collector program is designed for, to do just that. They just need to get it out, right? People, they've lost kind of like, it's taken 8 months. We've seen our points. And at the end of the day, all right, your points are great. The confetti's great, but you want to be able to use your points and, get rewarded for holding. And so we shall see. They need to get that done. And then once they do, you can get the collectors back. The mistake they made with Omi is that they let the Omi frenzy get out of hand. They should have blew it up when they dropped the McFarlane Batman. I don't understand that. Why not give Omi holders discount on collectibles? Yeah, for sure. And that's what the OUP is for. OUP is designed to give token holders an edge or to give them certain rewards. So staking rewards and things like this. Now, the issue they may run into with the redesigned utility program when they're meshing it with MCP is if there's no real reason to hold Omi, and if you can just do what you do with Omi with MCP points, then what's the point of collectors to buy Omi? Right? You need to incentivize VV collectors to buy Omi and bridge those two things together in order to optimize the potential of the Omi token. It has to be almost necessary. Like you can't, you're at a disadvantage if you don't hold Omi. That's what has to happen. Hopefully, I haven't looked at it in a while. When the OUP article first came out back in November, I liked it. I was bullish on it. Pretty much everyone was at the time. Okay, if you go back and look at reviews of the OUP system, the reviews of the system were great, right? Because Omi NFT was in there, the gem pool, the expiring accessories with Omi and burning all the Omi as a result, the ability to purchase the VVerse land with Omi in the future. That's part of a whole other system, right? So they did create a blueprint for the Omi token. And that blueprint still exists, but it's shifted. And now we don't know exactly what it is. So again, that's like the shift in communication, but it's there. And once Omi is tied into VV, it's got a ton of potential. That's what it is. Biscuits, well said. The reason for the narratives going wild is because lack of transparency. Yeah, I agree. Omi is supposed to be burning every freaking cell that happens on VV. So yeah, that was part of the old system. They had to do away with that. So it is what it is. Danny, on a different subject, did you build the shelves behind you? I really like those shelves. So I bought this and assembled it and screwed it into the wall. Kind of fits my decor in my basement. Industrial look with the pipes. And yeah, Hank. Shago, sup, Danny? What's going on, Shago? Thank you for coming through. DJ Rich, the only reason they sell it is because of IP. If it wasn't for Marvel, yeah, but that's the whole point, right? They have all this IP. That's the whole point. They have Marvel, they have Disney, they have Mickey Mouse, they have Rambo, RoboCop, Lamborghini, US Post Office. That's the whole point. They have all this IP. That's why they sell out. They have Stan Lee. That's why it sold out in a second. That is the compelling reason. That's the grand vision behind Vivi, is that they have all this IP. They have these digital collectibles, NFTs, whatever you want to call them, in a place that's easy to access, right? My 80-year-old father can download them. My 10-year-old daughter can download them. That is the whole point. Now, follow through on the MCP, create the leaderboard, reward collectors, tie in Omi, get the VVerse out, flesh it out, get Omi into that ecosystem, make it necessary. And that right there is a perfect storm of things, right? And that's why we're all here. That's the vision that we all believe in or believed in, right? Depending on your current perspective, if you've lost faith or if not. There are a lot of people who are still super bullish and love collecting. They DM me all the time. And they're silent. I don't see them on Twitter, but I get people DMing me their matching mints. It's a reaffirmation of the fact that the product resonates. And that's why, for me, I bottom line things. And it's frustrating that not everything is here. At the same time, the product still resonates. And so that gives me confidence that they can get this thing right and nail it and execute. And I hope that McFarlane is successful. I hope that they're very successful. I hope they get a bunch of IP. I hope another company comes in, and I hope Cryptoys is successful, because ultimately that will light a fire under VV's ass if there's not one there already, right? Not to say that they're not working, but competition always makes you work harder. It's just the way it is. I said it a few times. You always run faster when there's someone running behind you. For those of you who watched wrestling back in the 90s, you'll know that the WWE sucked until WCW came out, stole their talent away, took their top talent, and came out with a great product. They had the NWO. They had, must-watch TV at the time. That lit a fire under that company, which was already $1 billion company. Okay? They were the leader in the space. They had well over 2 decades in the business. They got stagnant. They slowed down. Another company came out, hired some of their talent away. They stepped up. They put that other company out of business. Competition is important to drive everyone to be their best. That's what capitalism is about. So when you see Cryptoys popping up, you see McFarlane popping up, you should root for them, because it legitimizes the whole space and makes this whole space one that is viable and one that can't be ignored, right? It helps grow the whole pie. And as the pie grows, if Vivi executes, its piece of the pie grows. So I'm hoping that we get more competition and that those guys do well. SoCal waitlist didn't work for me. I'm sorry, man. Why aren't we using Omi? What's the real reason? Why no use case? So, it's not in the... You need to buy, I don't know, there's like the conversion, buying gems, maybe somewhere down the line. The tech isn't there yet. First of all, they do it through the app. 90% of their transactions are through the app. That means they're through the App Store. Apple's getting their cut. They have the web app built out. Maybe in the future, you'll be able to buy gems using Omi. But they need to get these things done. Rhys once spent 20 mil Omi on a Todd when the app first launched. My uneducated guess is he has a ton of Omi and needs to buy a house. He wasn't even paid like the first year. Yeah, so I don't get mad at someone selling their tokens if they're on the team. The lockup period ended. I don't get mad at that. I don't think anyone should. The problem goes back, I guess. So Rhys made one mistake, in my opinion, okay? And that was telling people that he was buying Omi back in 2021 in May. Keep in mind, Omi had dropped something like 90% or 80%. It had dropped from a penny and a half all the way to 0.002. In Telegram, he said he was buying Omi. Just as that's being a token manager, I don't think he should say that. But him selling, to me, doesn't matter. Now, you can tie things up and say, you can look at data and connect dots and say, he sold after these events. And I don't know. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. At the very least, it's bad optics, right? And he should create some sort of, there should be protocol in place for when any of the team members, because they have insider information. So in the stock market, you can only sell your stock if you're a part of the team during a specific window of time, period of time. And maybe there should be an internal system just for the very least to prevent people from, spinning things. You need to control the narrative. And it is what it is. What's going on? And I don't know how to pronounce your name. Can you spell that phonetically? Because I always want to say your name and I don't want to butcher it. But thank you for the super sticker. Truly appreciate you. A true collector on VV. Thank you for that super sticker. But back to Rhys selling. If your net worth is 90% tied into a token, even if it's your own token, and crypto dumps 95% historically and is super volatile, I think it's okay to take profits. I think if you need money, it's okay to sell your assets. Those are your assets. However, there should be protocols in place to prevent the optics that you're dumping. And now afterwards, people have alleged it. That narrative is caught on with some people. A lot of people don't care. Okay. Some people are upset. It's about controlling the narrative. And you do that not through silence, in my opinion, but through communication, effective communication. New Gen. Is that right? New Gen? There you go. Now I can say your name on stream because I sometimes don't because I'm afraid to. It's close enough. New Gen? I butcher names often. Thank you again for the super chat, super sticker. Let me know what you guys think about, the reselling thing. And I didn't make any videos about it. And just because it's such like people get heated about it or whatever, but I've spoken about it on stream a bunch of times. So those are my thoughts. Dead rabbits. Paul Barron is not that smart. I disagree, man. I think that I really like Paul Barron. Even I can disagree with someone's take on something and still like them and still value what the product they deliver or their channel. Paul Barron is one of the few people that I watch regularly because I love his understanding of like the macro. I love his breakdown of, so the other day there was congressional hearing on crypto, on a new bill that's being introduced. And it's important. This information is important, and mainstream media doesn't cover it. And so you have to go to smart, platforms for people to break it down for you. And in my opinion, Paul Barron's one of those people. I think that he's smart. I like his macro takes. He has an understanding of things. Where Paul Barron, I guess, went wrong with this community, obviously, is that he said negative things about Vivi. Now, those are his beliefs, and he's entitled to them. The thing to understand about Paul Barron is that he's a true Web3 person, right? Like, he is invested in Web3 projects. He sees it as the future. And there are core elements and principles of it that he ascribes to Web3, right? Self-custody, obviously, interoperability, all these things. And so Vivi doesn't quite check those boxes for him, and that's okay. He can, love it. See, when someone agrees with our opinion, we love them. And it's great to have someone like Paul Barron, who's got a bunch of subscribers, who's smart. When he's bullish on Vivi, we throw flowers at his feet. We love Paul Barron because we agree with him. When his opinion changes and he just, he doesn't like the product anymore. He thought they'd move in a direction that they didn't move in. He didn't, whatever. That's okay. I can still value his takes on things and disagree with him. So that whole thing that they did with rankings, where they ranked Quid above Vivi, I thought that was ridiculous. Because Quid, if you don't have a product that resonates, you don't even talk about them, right? And Quid has made improvements, and I do like some of the things that they've done. But the bottom line is, there's no real strong community there. And so just by that virtue alone, in my estimation, Vivi trumps them. And I disagree with him on that. But I can still value, his channel and his takes on things. I think that one of the worst things that people can do, and it's something that we tend to do, is create, what's it called? Echo chambers, right? Where we surround ourselves with people who agree with us and who just, reinforce our belief system. I think it's important to listen to everyone, including sound money. It's good to sell and leave. Many have. He's referring to Rhys. That's his opinion, right? I don't agree with everyone's opinions, but I value their input. And just because you can agree to disagree on something and find value in something else that someone says. And here's buying with insider info. That's another story. And that is, again, I agree that there needs to be protocols in place, because when you have insider info, then you have the power to, use that information for your benefit at the expense of others. And so I'd like to see just guardrails put up and protocols in place. But at the same time, I'm not jumping to the conclusion that that's what happened there. Biscuit says, I personally don't care that he sold, but reputation matters. And I think the negative chatter could have been squashed if there was transparency. Yeah, and I agree with that. I agree that that reputation matters, communication matters. Oftentimes, silence confirms people's opinions, and there are better ways to handle things. So I 100% agree with that. Let me go back to some of these chats back here. DGen Rich, I want to be so bullish on Omi because of the VV app, but they don't give a shit about Omi. I think that's the optics of it. Davey Boy said, today was a nothing burger. DGen, if Bit4X pulls Omi from their exchange, Omi is over with. And that's not going to happen, in my opinion, right? But we've seen a lot of small exchanges go down. And that's why it's important to have multiple exchanges, because there'll be no liquidity and there'll be no place for people to go. And so one of the reasons they need exchanges is obviously to prevent that. You have Bit4X, and there, I don't even know the other small exchanges. The only one I can use is Bit4X. It's the only place I can buy Omi in the state that I live is Bit4X, or I can swap on MetaMask and pay ETH gas fees. But I can't set buy orders there. And so exchanges are important. Tickets make me want to puke. Silliness. Does Ecomi have Pokemon? No. Might they one day get Pokemon? Maybe. I used to think that it was a foregone conclusion that they would end up with Pokemon. Now I'm not so sure. And, you know, I would kind of be shocked. I'm not shocked. I'd be surprised if they announced Pokemon, just because it's like such a big brand. I'm sure that they're carefully constructing. They're, you know, the people in charge of Pokemon know what they have, the biggest brand in the world. They're carefully going to choose where and how they use that in this space. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. But if you had asked me and anyone here, because that Alcon connection early on, especially, if Vivi would land Pokemon, I think everyone would have said it's a foregone conclusion. Put it in the chat now. From 1 to 10, 10 being the strongest, yes, we're going to get it. 1, no chance. What your thoughts are on if we're going to get Pokemon. I'm curious. That's why Taps bailed. He's been talking about the VVerse exchanges for well over 3 years. Yeah, so Taps didn't quite. So he's just, I saw him back in November, and he was already away from the community and Vivi and Omi for a while at that time. And he told me he was still bullish. We talked. He was planning to come back. But he said he had a lot going on personally in his life, things, work, whatever. And it's hard to be consistent and deliver content. It's time consuming. When I'll stop delivering content because I have a real job that pays good money. This is nothing, right? This is like this is a hobby, but I make good money at my job. I make nothing here. I do this because I enjoy talking to people and having an opportunity to contribute to the conversation. But once you stop making content, it's very hard to get motivated and to get back in. Because 1, you're going to have to deal with the people who are saying that you left. And 2, it's just hard to just motivate, especially when there's not really a financial incentive for you to get back in, because you could be doing a lot of things with your time. At the end of the day, this competes with your time, and your time is your most valuable currency. And so Taps, I'm sure, still believes in the long-term vision. SoCal, 1 out of 10. He's lost hope on Pokemon. Another 1. We got a 6. I don't know how to say that. Zephazer. A 6 from Zephazer. So still fairly optimistic that Vivi gets Pokemon. Biscuits is down the middle. A 5. I'm with Biscuits. A 5. I think that they have the wherewithal, obviously, to secure the deal. They have the wherewithal and the connections, and they're a moneymaker for these companies. Pokemon would look at Disney. You think Disney's disappointed with their partnership? You think Marvel is disappointed? Their perspective is not your perspective. So if you're disappointed because of missed timelines and bad communication. That's not their perspective is, how much money is this company making me and how often? And the answer is a lot. Every week, right? Marvel. Every drop sells out. Disney, Star Wars. I think Disney re-upped on their deal with VV. So they've proven that they can link with these big companies and deliver and build lasting relationships. And they're in the Marvel booth. That shows you the strength of that relationship. So it's important to compartmentalize things, right? We often think of things from our own perspective, and that is to say, I am upset that their communication has been bad. They've not hit their deliverables in time. I'm upset. You have to compartmentalize that, because that doesn't negate all the other facts. And the fact of the matter is, when Marvel is thinking about, their own perspective, I'm sure this is great. They're just printing these digital assets and it's doing hundreds of thousands in revenue for us. And then people are selling them on the secondary market and we're getting passive income. That's a moneymaker. So, from that perspective of a licensor, I'm sure all the licensors are happy because they're getting paid. Okay. And at the end of the day, that's what they care about. It's my opinion, at least. Hank says, no, we are not going to get Pokemon. Yeah, what time's going to tell. What's up, Sleepin'? If you didn't see my conversation with Sleepin' Comics, it was one of the best that I had. He's one of the most insightful people in this community, and I really enjoyed it. Check it out. Self-custody versus interoperability are different, correct. Any idea how long it would take McFarlane Toys to get full interoperability? It's been years of EV now. Not that easy. Yeah, that is a very good point, and one that people don't truly understand. New gen. I tried to do it right. Entran, that's what I'm gonna call you, Entran. So I'm gonna ask Trevor tomorrow, what he thinks that their timeline is for interoperability. So the difference is, so self-custody is what McFarlane has right now, right? You buy the asset, you hold it in your MetaMask wallet, your Coinbase wallet, whatever it is, and you self-custody it, right? It's not being held by a company like VV. However, you can't take that asset and that 3D, asset and put it anywhere. Because the storage, to my understanding, and I don't know enough about this stuff, so due to in my limited understanding of it, there's not enough like decentralized cloud storage to store. Those are really huge files, right? They're big files, those 3D assets. And until they're able to, I guess, store them in some decentralized cloud where they're compressed, and then you can have them in different places. But in my, again, limited understanding, McFarlane said that their goal long-term is to be interoperable, have their assets interoperable with Sandbox, Decentraland, and other metaverses. How long that takes, I don't know, but I will ask Trevor tomorrow. I'll try to remember the question. If you're there, give me a nudge and tell me. If VV doesn't make it, then digital collectibles won't be a thing. I don't necessarily think that's true. MySpace was the first, to my knowledge, social media platform, and they got MySpace. They're now a verb, right? Companies go out of business all the time. The space moves on and lives. So I don't necessarily think that that's the case. We're still so early in this. When you think about the lifespan of industries, right? we're in the first inning of this whole space, the first inning. And there's so much time left to determine who the winners are. Go back 100 years. What was the first toy company? Look at, I just bought these. Check them out. Dope, right? So my new rabbit hole is collecting vintage Star Wars toys, but these were made by a company called Kenner, I think. They were probably doing a lot of money in the late 70s and early 80s. Where are they now? Right? Not to say that's going to happen to Vivi, but it's important to note that this is going to be, in my opinion, a big industry, like a digital toy store. And, whoever's winning right now or is like the dominant one, it's very early. Doesn't mean that they're going to be the winner 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. They may not exist. And that's just the nature of business. But the industry will still exist, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Right now, I would agree that Vivi has a strong position in this nascent space amongst these few companies that are just starting to emerge. In time, you're going to see more of them. And what I think is going to happen is that they're going to be just like toy companies. You've got, you'll have like a Hasbro, you'll have Funko Pops. And maybe someone likes collecting this style and they're loyal to this brand. And maybe that's what Vivi ends up being. And they have their own brand, right? And in the end, it's the Vivi brand that is valuable, right? Just like Funko. There are a bunch of, and I'm just using them as an example. I don't know. I know people collect them. But there are other companies that try to resemble Funkos. But people are loyal to Funkos and they collect them. My daughter collects like Stranger Things Funko Pops. And every time we go to a store or a comic book convention, she's on the hunt for specific Funko Pops. So within the toy industry, there are many different companies. There's McFarlane Toys, right? I think that's a Breaking Bad McFarlane toy over my shoulder. I don't know which shoulder it is. You get the point. I think in the end, the brand will matter. And I think that Vivi is also uniquely positioned there, at least right now, because they have that strong community and it's such a one-stop shop. And in the future, maybe it's not the only one-stop shop. Maybe there's another company that comes along. Maybe it's like another McFarlane type company that has, like, I don't know what Jazz wears. That's like Jeremy Padawar's company. Maybe it's a well-known physical company that comes along and tries to infiltrate the space. People will decide what they collect, where they collect. Vivi is uniquely positioned at the moment with the depth and the breadth of their IP, with the fact that they have first appearances of many things. They have the comic books in there, that whole catalog from Marvel, and they have this strong community. So they're positioned well. Just need to execute. Why Disney won't buy Vivi if they could profit more? So I think that Vivi is more in the game of licensing out their IP than swallowing up companies that sell different IPs, right? Because then Disney, it'd be weird that Disney is then selling, but they're going to promote like a Todd McFarlane drop. Even on secondary market, they're going to promote like Batman, DC. To me, that doesn't make sense. They're more in the business of licensing out their product. So they'll accumulate IP, right? They'll accumulate Star Wars, they'll accumulate Marvel, and they'll tell these companies, sell it. And they make all this money. Just my opinion. We can track sales dollars on percentages for partners, but we can't track MCP points. Yeah, so it's a problem. I mean, again, those are early streams I did with Kay early in the year were insightful in that he talked about tech debt and not having the right pieces in place early on, and now having to work 3, 4, 5 times as hard to produce, these things to deliver. And, they have millions of points to retroactively track, and it is what it is. Hank, it's a moneymaker for sure, which we as Omi investors funded. Yeah. And it is, I'm going to wrap this up in about 5 minutes or so. If you have any questions, pump them out. I'll see if I can get to them, or things you want to talk about. It is an issue, right? They need to deliver on the Omi side of things, because people, especially those early investors, they don't want to hear like, oh, we had to change the regulatory issues. We had to change direction. We had to switch the tokenomics thing. They want to see results. It's a problem when you ICO, right? You have people that now you owe results to. So I'm in another small project, Mask, MASQ, and I'm just starting to learn about it. But what struck me as interesting is that they did an ICO. I was in a Twitter Spaces. I asked the founder, I said, I noticed there was no ICO for this token. And what he said was, we don't want to be beholden to, funders and, the initial token buyers, because then they become stakeholders. And now you just have to appease all these different people, right? So they've got the licensors that they have to appease. They have the VV community they have to appease. They have their Omi holders, and then the OG Omi holders, and they have to appease all these different stakeholders. So sometimes you got to ride things out, and things happen on a timeline that you didn't project. And in the end, if you were right, then things will be okay, right? If you weren't right, then you won't be okay. But that's why it's important not to over leverage. And this is investing, right? Anytime there's a new space, a new nascent space, NFTs, it's a paradigm shift. People jump on it and they invest in it. Everything is speculative, because we're speculating on what's going to happen in the future. We're speculating on what the team will be able to accomplish. We're speculating on the macro environment of things. Everything is speculative. You need to understand that as an investor, there are winners and losers. And I only say that because it's important not to get freaked out when your investment is lagging behind. And it could be for a number of reasons. I don't get freaked out and it's lagged behind. Even now, everything is down from the last bear market, right? Bitcoin is down from its 69,000 to 30,000, but Bitcoin is up year to date, right? About almost double. It was at 15.6, whatever it was at the bottom. Now it's at 30,000. It's almost double. Sol went from $8 to $24. So year to date, the Omi chart doesn't look good. But charts are temporary. And when you're investing long-term on fundamentals. And now if your vision is still if you still have that vision that VV is this app that resonates with people, and they have all this IP, and they have this strong community, and they're going to flesh out an ecosystem with a metaverse and incorporate the Omi token. If that's your thesis, and your thesis plays out, then you stand to do well. If it doesn't play out, then, it is what it is. But that's kind of part of the game, and you have to, I guess, kind of expect it. Is, I guess, my point. I don't know if that makes sense. Sup, Basement Dweller. Yeah, that's my boy Sleeping Comics, the Basement Dweller, one of the best. Super Duper Hank says he's out. Thanks for easing the tension. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to keep a balanced approach and objective. It's easy to go crazy in both directions, right? It's easy to go crazy on the like bullish side of things and saying this token's going like doesn't like regardless of what they do with the token, this coin's going to 30 cents next bull run because everything moves in a bull market, right? It's easy to get caught up. It's easy to get caught up in the bear mentality. They're not doing anything. They're late on everything. We're going to miss the cycle, right? My thing is somewhere in the middle, there is more truth to be found. And it's more of like, it's not going to go crazy like 30 cents, in my opinion. And it's also not going to be a doomsday scenario, in my opinion, just because they have a strong foundation, they have a strong community, and they just have to deliver a few things in order to capitalize on the next market cycle. Again, just my opinion. But that's why I don't get too high and too low, is because I kind of see that middle ground, or I try to anyway. When will you do TA again on Omi token? Any events or indicators are always watching. Yeah, so I watch the charts. I'm not great at TA, but I do have people who are great at TA on the channel. So God's Entry was the last person. He's great at charts. And his sentiment last time I spoke to him was the same. That 0004 is still a target if the market dumps, because it could dump. And long term, he said he still sees the token doing well next cycle. But I will have God's Entry on again. I try to have him on like once a month or so. Again, I like to talk to him when there are things to talk about and there's a change in the chart structure so that he can provide some new information. So look out for that. Yeah, Biscuits, Funko, pop hunting is the best. And I think anything, the Funko pop hunting, anything that you collect, if you're able to hunt it and chase it, and there are rare items to be found, that's part of the collecting experience. It's a beautiful part of it. And I think one of the reasons we're all here. So that being said, I've been on for almost 2 hours. I'm going to wrap it up. I want to thank you all for joining me for my FA solo stream. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it and want me to do it some more. I enjoy speaking to great people like Sleeping Comics, My Collectibles, and the people that I interview one-on-one. I also just love interacting with you guys in the comments. So hit the like button. Join me tomorrow. I'm going to have Trevor on. Should be a good one. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.